Good evening. So there were two guys, two beggars, and they were sitting on a bench outside of a shul. And one of them, Joe, said to Mark, "Hey Mark, I have a friend, I have a Jewish friend, that goes to a shul, and he's also a beggar. And then I saw him, and he told me that he goes out of there with plenty of money. Where me and you, we work day and night trying to beg for money on the streets, but we're getting nowhere. Let's go and check out this shul. Yeah, nobody will know they're not Jewish. We'll check it out. We'll go in." So they both go in. Yeah, Joe goes around, looks around, and he sees one of the beggars begging money. And every time he puts his hand out, he gets money in his hands. So he goes and checks it out, and what's going on. So he sees the guy says, "Tzedakah, tzedakah." So he goes, "Okay, that's pretty good. I'll do the same thing." I said, "Tzedakah, tzedakah." So he did it, and surely every time he did it, somebody gave him tzedakah. It worked. The next thing, he looks around, he sees another guy, and he's getting like twice the amount of money as this first guy. So I have to check this out. He goes, and he sees a guy saying, "Tzedakah, ger tzedek, tzedakah, ger tzedek." Convert, tzedakah, convert. So he does the same thing, tzedakah, ger tzedek, and he gets more money. He gets twice the amount. So then he looks around the shul and he sees another guy. This time the guy gets nice big paper bills, dollars, and so he goes and checks out what this guy is doing. And he sees this guy is going, "Tzedakah, Einikol, great grandchild of the Baal Shem Tov. Tzedakah, Einikol of the Baal Shem Tov." So the guy goes and he says to him, "Let's try this out." So he goes, "Tzedakah, ger tzedek, Einikol of Baal Shem Tov." It can't be. Yeah, that's a joke. The joke is that it can't be Einikol of the Baal Shem Tov if you're ger tzedek. So just as a start of the idea of tzedakah. Tzedakah is only a specific attribute of what we call chesed. Chesed in English, in translation of chesed in Hebrew to English, means doing kind deeds. And the chesed is, as most people think, if you start thinking about what chesed is, so the first thing that comes to our minds is we think of Mother Teresa with helping poor, helping poor people and people in hospitals and doing good deeds. And then you have Gandhi, who is known for politically going fighting and political actions to help a group of people. And then you have Bill Gates, who gives loads of money for charity. That's usually what comes to our minds. No, is that true? You guys are doing good deeds, giving charity. Yeah. But what is the Jewish idea of chesed? Is it just the idea of giving, doing good deeds, or more than that? Is it more depth than just doing, good deeds? So to explain that, I want to bring. I brought these leaflets here. That the first thing is a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It's the second Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. שמעון הצדיק היה משערי כנסת גדולה. הוא היה אומר, על 3 דברים העולם עומד, על תורה ועל אבוידה ועל גמילות חסדים. Shimon Tzadik says a very important point here in what's the concept, what's the idea of the world, what's the creation, in the creation of the world. He says the whole world stands on 3 things: Torah, Avoida, and Gemilut Chasadim. So Torah, as everybody knows, Torah is learning Torah, the Torah that we have, the Torah Shebal Peh, Torah Shechtav, the written Torah, the oral Torah, and that's it's a whole subject in its own. Yeah, why Torah is the first one on the list. Why the world stand on Torah, but we can't get into that right now. And then you have avodah, which is service of Hashem, prayer, and many other things, a way of serving Hashem. And then the last one on the list, the third pillar that holds the world, is Gimlut Chasadim, doing Chesed, as we spoke about, kindness. So it's very hard to understand. Here the mission is telling us the whole world stands on this. And not that just like people doing good deeds. The whole world was created and is standing on Gimlut Chasadim, on Chesed. So how do we understand this? So let me ask you a question. Ask you a question to understand this, to get an answer to this question. What would it be? If let's say God created the world. Why did God create the world in such a way that He could have created the world, each person would have had his own world. Yeah? Me and you, each one will have our own world, and we'll be able to live in that world without people. Why did God create the world in such a way that there's people? Yeah, He created Chava, He created people. Yeah, why? Why can't He just create each one his own world? So I'll give you an exercise to try and get an idea. I want you to all think about the following scenario. Yeah? Let's say it's 2020. Yeah, and there was another Cold War. Now you have America, Russia. They decide to have a Cold War again, and each one invented a new weapon. This weapon is never been seen before. This weapon is like once one of the rockets hits a place, the whole world gets completely destroyed. The whole civilization, all the human life would be destroyed, except for everything else will stand the way it is. Yeah, there'll be houses, there'll be cars, everything will be the same. No destruction to the actual physical world, but the human race will be completely gone. Now, let's say the situation happened that there was a war, and boom, yeah, and for some reason, you're the only one survived. Yeah, you're the only one survived. Well, how would you feel? You have no one to talk to. Lonely, depressed. What else? Could you survive? It's probably very difficult. No, you have to make food. You have to it's very difficult. So we see from this that there's an integral part of a human being that needs to give. He can't live alone. He has to have somebody else. There has to be somebody else to give to, either by speaking or doing. A person cannot live by himself. Why is that? Why is this? What's this need to give? So, to understand what's this need to give, we have the Ramchal. You've heard of the Ramchal? The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem. I have it here in the second page. He says the following: God's purpose in creation was to bestow His good to another. The whole reason God created the world, because God is complete goodness, and because He's such complete goodness, He wanted to bestow His goodness into something else. He wanted to give. So Ramchal continues to say that later on, next page, that the reason why God created the world was to give. He created the human life, the creation of man, so He could bestow His good. In other words, the only way to give out from Him His goodness is to give to something else. To create it, He had to go and create something to be able to absorb its giving. But the Ramchal continues and explains that for that thing, which is man, to be able to absorb, to be able to get that goodness, has to be able to be a vessel, a type of similar to God, in such a way that He can connect to Him and absorb from Him. So this is why the Ramchal explains that's why man was placed in this world with things to give it freedom of choice. Yeah, you have to choose between good and bad. Why? Because since God Himself is self-created, God is self-created. So the same thing, to be similar to God, you have to be self-created. God gave man the ability to choose between good and bad, to be self-created, to create him, to perfect himself by himself. And this way he becomes a closeness, it becomes a similarity between him and the Creator. In a way he becomes more godly and more close to the Creator and be able to attach to him and absorb him. Like you can take it from example of people. Like who do you attach yourself more to? To somebody you're more similar to. Yeah, you always look for somebody who has a similarity to you, and you feel more comfortable and be able to absorb from them more easily because you have similarities. So the same thing here. God made the world so the man be able to perfect himself and be able to absorb from him. And the way to perfect yourself is by being as closeness, as more godly as possible as you could be. So taking this, we'll take it further. The same idea here, to answer the first question, why the world stands on Chesed, is the same idea, is that God created man to give, with the inherited need to give, so that he can perfect himself in giving. By perfecting himself in giving, he imitates Hashem, he becomes closer, more similar to God, who himself, God created the world. His whole purpose of creation, like the Amichai says, was to give. God wanted to give. So you imitate, by you working on Chesed, you working on giving, you are becoming more godly, because that's what God is. God is complete good and He wants to give. So you're doing the same thing. So that's why the Mishnah says, it comes out very nice. The Mishnah says that the whole world stands on Chesed. Why? Because that is what the whole intention of the world. The whole intention is for man to be able to work on Chesed, to be able to perfect himself on that and be similar to God. So now that we see that was the purpose of creation, so let's take it a bit further. Yeah, now that we know that Chesed, that's purpose of creation, Chesed has a deep understanding to it, that it's more than just giving. It's perfection, becoming more perfected, becoming closer to God. Not just giving to people, it's a connection. So, how do we perfect ourselves? What's considered perfected Chesed? So, to understand that, the best way to understand it is through the way God created the world, through God Himself. So, I want to I took out two aspects that we see the concept of creation that we see from God, we can learn for ourselves. So the first one is, we see from the creation, we see that God created the world. He created a world to give. There was no need for a world to be in existence. There was no need for a world. Just because He had such a need to give, He created the world. And after He created the world, He constantly gave. He constantly gives. Right now, He constantly gives us life. He gives us everything we need. He's constantly giving. But the original creation wasn't really needed. He came and He created the world, yeah? He created something new that wasn't needed. So that's the first thing we can take from this. Is the first point is that the creation, from the creation we see that Chesed, to reach an ultimate level of Chesed, is by creating a need to give. By creating a need to give. And to get it clearer, I brought there's a Avos Rabbi Natan. The Mishnah here tells us an example of this. We see by Eov that the Torah says, the Chazal say that Eov used to be a big Baal Chesed. His tent had 4 entrances, and Anim, the poor people used to go from any direction, used to be able to go into his house and be used to feed them and take care of them, and he did it for a reason. Why? Because he didn't want people to go have to go all the way around. He wanted to make it easier for the anim. But when Eov became ill and became all these punishments, not punishments, all these things that happened to him, all the suffering, he said to Hashem, he said, I don't understand. I did all this chesed. Why am I getting punished like this? So Hashem said back to him, you only did half of what Avram did. Only half. So what does that mean? So the Mishnah says, the Avram, even though Avram himself, he also had a tent and there's 4 entrances. He did the same thing, but he did more. Eov waited in the house for people to come to him. Avram will go out, try and find ways to bring more people into his house. He would look for anim, he would look for people, travelers, and try and find any way, create a way to bring people into his house to do chesed. And also we see when he had the bris, circumcision, the 3rd day of circumcision, Hashem made it that it was so hot outside that nobody could survive. He had to, people could survive, but it was so hot, yeah? It was like unbearable. And still, the Torah tells us Avram went outside looking for guests. And he was in pain. The 3rd day is the worst pain. And he went and he looked for guests. So we see, unbelievable. He went, he knew that he didn't have to go out. He created, he caused the need for chesed. And Hashem sent him 3 malachim. And when he got the 3 malachim came, the first thing he did is gave them more than they needed. He looked for ways to give them more chesed beyond beyond what they needed. They all they needed is maybe to have a drink of water, eat some bread. No, he said, no, I'm going to give you wine, I'm going to give you meat. He went beyond. So we see from Avram, he obviously saw the way God created the world. He saw that chesed is beyond. You create a need and you give it. So that's the first concept of the perfection of chesed. Just to bring out the point even more, there's a story, a famous story of Beis Levi. The Beis Levi, it was Erev Pesach, and somebody came to him from Erev Pesach, came to the Rabbi to ask him a shaila, to ask him a question. So the guy came to the Beis Levi's house and said, Rabbi, I don't know what to do. I only have for the Dalit Kosov, 4 koises, I only have milk. Can I use milk to do the mitzvah of Dalit koises, the Arba koises, 4 koises? So the Beis Levi said to the Beis Levi called his wife and said to her, can you bring me such amount of money? And he gave it to this guy. And the Rebbe said afterwards, when the guy left, he said, I don't understand. You gave him more than just enough for wine. All he needed is 4 cups of wine. He gave him enough for a whole meal, for meat and everything else. He said, yes. I'll tell you why. I saw when he asked me the question. He said to me, I have 4 cups of milk, and is definitely a Jew, and Jewish people don't drink milk together with meat. So must be that he didn't have meat. So I gave him enough to buy meat and the rest of the meal. So Beis Levi saw there was a need beyond of what the guy was asking, and he gave it. So this is a concept of giving beyond. So now, let's go to the next. There's a next stage, next aspect we see through the creation, which is giving without taking. When God created the world, He created the world in such a form that we can never give back, which is an obvious thing because the Creator is unlimited, is beyond anything. Nothing can give back to Him. His creations cannot give back to the Creator. So, we do have a concept of brachas, mitzvahs. Hashem made it as if we can give back. but really, there's no way for us to really give back to the Creator. So the creation of the world was to teach us also that that giving has to be given without taking. This is Rav Dessler. I don't know if you ever heard of Rav Dessler. He's a big, deep thinker in Judaism. That he brings this idea that giving, the man was created with a need to give and take. So our purpose is to work on giving without taking, to be a complete giver. And most people, we see that most people are probably givers, but most of the giving is really taking. Yeah. And I'll give you an example of this. Yeah. That you can see a complete taking. It can be a giving, but complete taking. There's a story I heard once. I don't know if it's true or not true, but there was a businessman, a wealthy businessman, who was standing in a subway, and he fell in, and he broke his leg. He couldn't get out, and then people didn't know what to do. Everyone was in a panic. Suddenly, this low life big guy jumped in, pulled him out, threw him out, and jumped out, and started running towards the train was about to come. And he started running towards the train, and people running after him, and he's like, "Hey, Mister, you just saved somebody's life. Where are you running to? You did such a big thing." And the guy was like, "No, leave me alone. I have to go. I'm late to work." So he jumps on the train and jump after him and ask him, "I don't understand. What do you mean? You just saved this guy's life. He would have been hit by the train." He's like, "Listen, all I know is that this guy will get hit by the train. The train is going to end up stopping for hours, and I'm going to be late to work. So, what do you want from me?" So, you see, that's considered giving. That's giving with taking, complete taking. Why? Because his whole idea of giving was because selfishness. He wanted to get to work. He didn't care about saving the guy. He did a big thing, but he did it for his own selfish reasons. So that's the idea of the opposite. But the other way around, a person has to be a complete giver, even though sometimes you have to work on giving completely. But sometimes our giving also taking. So even though we have taken, it can become a giving. That's by you giving to somebody, now you kind of obligating yourself. So by you taking from somebody, you're obligating yourself to give again. That's called akara satov. Yeah, doing, returning back a favor kind of thing. Yeah. We see this idea of the opposite of giving completely is by Rav. There's a Gemara speaks about Rav Ukva. Rav Ukva, Mar Ukva and his wife. Mar Ukva used to go and give tzedakah to this certain poor person every day, and he used to do it in a way. He used to place the money underneath the doorpost, without the guy knowing who did it. He used to run away straight away, and the guy never knew who put the money underneath. One day, him and his wife decided to go together and to do this mitzvah, and suddenly this guy was waiting behind the door. He really wanted to know who is this person that's constantly giving me money. Yeah, I want to see him. I want to see who it is. So he's waiting, and he's putting the money underneath, and suddenly the door is about to open. So him and his wife started running away as quick as they can. Yeah, and these guys were running after them, and they knew that he's running after them. So they got to a certain corner, and there was a big oven that wasn't used the whole day, but it was still hot. In those days the ovens were huge. They were still hot from the fire from before. The coals were still hot. So they jumped inside, and the Rav Ukva's feet were starting to get to burn from the heat, but his wife was fine. So she said to him, "Put your feet on my feet, and you'll be fine." So he did, but he felt bad. Why is my feet burning? Her feet is not burning. So she said to him, "Listen, when I do a mitzvah, When I do tzedakah, chesed, I prepare the food. I at home I prepare the food. I make it all ready so the new can come and take, and it's all ready. When you do a mitzvah, you take the money, you give it to them. They don't see you, but you give it to them, and they have to go and buy the food, prepare the food. Yeah. So my mitzvah is a bigger chesed because I made everything ready for them. So you see, from this you see the two concepts. Yeah? You see the first concept we learned before, like creating. She went and she created a new, beyond what she needed to do, and she made it ready for them. And also you see the chesed that he did is also the Chazal said that the sages teach us that type of chesed considered chesed without taking. Why? Because he didn't see the ani himself, he didn't see the poor person himself, and the poor person did not see him. So he doesn't gain anything out of it. Can you imagine doing chesed for somebody, and that person doesn't know you did anything, and you don't know who you did it to? You gave the money to somebody to give to somebody else, yeah? Nobody knows that you gave it to them. You're not going to feel the same satisfaction. When you give money to somebody, you feel good when you give it to them, and they know that you gave money. People donate money to yeshiva or something, or they put a big plaque with the names, yeah. So because they're getting something out of it. So that's called giving without nobody knowing anything. That's giving without taking. That's the ultimate giving.
But isn't an important part of this double-blind tzedakah? Isn't an important part of it is the feeling of happiness, the feeling of the good?
Yeah, but your feeling of good is you're not really receiving. You're saying there's always a level of feeling good, but do you feel?
But it's going to be lower.
It's much lower. Yeah, it's a less. You can never maybe
so why
remove.
Is this a higher level if the point of this chesed, the point of the tzedakah is for you to feel the good?
Oh, you mean you should feel good? You're saying you should know that you're feeling.
I mean, you're not going to.
I'm not sure if
you're.
I'm not sure if you need to. The only reason why you should feel good is so you should do it again. So even that feeling good should be forgiving. Yeah, the feeling is it's like the same idea that you're taking the feeling good is there for you to be able to do it again. That should be the aim of the feeling good. But the higher level of that is I don't think you need to feel anything. You're doing it because you're doing chesed, because you want to help somebody, but doesn't mean that you have to feel anything for it. The idea of giving doesn't have to be that I'm getting something out of it, a feeling or enjoyment of any kind. The ultimate chesed is just giving because you have to give, because you have a need, you have an internal need to give. You have like an obligation to give. That's the ultimate.
Just one more. But in the Derech Hashem, it says that the purpose of creation was therefore to bring existence a creature that would derive pleasure from God's own good. So, if you're mimicking what Hashem was doing, isn't it necessary to feel the pleasure from God in the same way? If you don't feel the pleasure.
No, but the pleasure you feel from God is not the pleasure of giving. Pleasure of feeling God is because you're a vessel receiving the good from God. You're receiving from God. Uh-huh. That's the pleasure that he's saying that you're getting. It's not the pleasure that when you give, the pleasure of giving. He's saying once you perfected yourself, you are a vessel that can absorb the pleasure, wherever the pleasure is, you're able to absorb. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the pleasure that you're receiving. It's like we don't know what the pleasure is, until we come to that stage of Olam Haba, yeah. But to be able to become the vessel to absorb the pleasure, then you that's what it means. That's a pleasure he's talking about. You have to become a vessel to absorb it.
It's two different kinds of pleasure.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah, exactly.
Pleasure from
giving. When you give, it's a different pleasure. It's a pleasure that you feel satisfied. You feel like you did something good. But that satisfaction is not the ultimate chesed. The ultimate chesed is.
My understanding was the two were the same, but you're saying that.
No, they're two different things.
Okay.
So. There's the next page that 1 second. No, the next page after that. Right? They say a word, an example of this idea of giving without taking from the Torah. We see by by Rachel and Leah that it says over here that the Torah says that Rachel asked Leah, when Leah's son found these certain flowers called dudaim in the fields, and he brought it to his mother. And sometimes these dudaim are like special flowers that help for a woman to conceive. So Rachel saw that he had this dudaim, so she asked Leah if she could have it. So Leah said to her, "What you want to take my husband, and you want to take my dudaim? Just you took my husband, now you want to take my dudaim?" So we see from the words of Leah to Rachel that she had no concept, that for some reason she didn't know that really Rachel was more deserved that a husband that Yaakov should be Yaakov should be her husband than Yaakov should be her husband, considered her husband, because Yaakov originally was meant to marry Rachel. So he should be her husband, yeah. So what does it mean? Leah telling her, well, "You took my husband." Really, it's very strange. Really, it sounds like she never knew that Rachel gave away a husband to Leah, yeah. And we know that Leah gave her like signs when so that Yaakov should know that he's not been tricked. So he should be with Leah at the time of the wedding. So I'm saying, just to bring out they say over here that you see that the way Rachel must have told her the signs when she first was meant to get married to Yaakov, and instead Lavan changed Leah instead of Rachel. So she must have made her feel that she had every reason to marry Yaakov. She made her feel that like there's no reason why Yaakov is not her husband. That she hasn't got the rights for Yaakov. That's what she made her feel. Yeah, the Rachel herself doesn't have the rights for Yaakov. Leah has all the rights, even though the truth is the opposite. Really, Rachel should have married Yaakov first, and really she should be considered the real wife, because she was meant to be the original zivug. So you see, the idea here also that the way Rachel did it is in a way of like giving without taking. She made she didn't even realize that her giving of Yaakov to Leah she made her feel like she had no part in it. Yeah, the Rachel had no part in giving away Yaakov. And I thought there's a situation which happened, a few months ago. We all know about the terrible, killing of 4 people in Har Nov, in the shul. I actually had a close relationship with one of them, and I heard of one story about one of the people who were killed, who was unbelievable, Bal Chesed, they called him, Arav Kopinski. That they say that he had a gamach. Used to, anyone needed a freezer, or for let's say for keeping things for simchas, like for to freeze food, for a lot of food, you need extra space, extra freezer space. So he had freezers that people would take, and he'll lend people freezers, yeah, like big freezers, lend. So that's very nice. He had freezers, and you would think that people come to his house and he will take the freezers to their place, but no, he used to go and deliver the freezers to everybody. He used to go himself, and every time somebody needed a freezer, he would take the freezer to them. He was a big guy, he was a strong person, but he used to go and give it to them. He went beyond. He went, the idea of going beyond. He could have just, people come to me, like the case of Eo. He went like Avram. He went out. He gave the freezers to them. And I heard that when the day of his death, his chesed was revealed, yeah, in the ultimate level. His chesed was revealed at the ultimate level because he fought they say that he fought one of the Arabs, the terrorists. He was able to grab hold of him for a few minutes. He was a very strong person, a very big person. He was able to grab hold of the Arab. He grabbed hold of his gun or something, and meanwhile people were able to run away. He could have run away like everybody else, yeah, but he grabbed hold of this guy for a long time. I think for the majority of the time he was able to grab one of the guys until the other guy came and killed him, yeah. But his mysterious nefesh, he's like going beyond, was so much that he was giving completely without taking for himself whatsoever. He gave his whole life. There's nothing bigger than giving your whole life. And he did it, and he went and he stopped this. He saved so many lives. We don't know how many lives he saved. He saved so many lives. So you see, like, it's possible to get such a level. So there's I thought maybe another from this last from Shabbos, the Shabbos we just had. It was Parshat Truma. This idea of giving Chesed. We all know that the Mishkan was an integral part of the Jewish people in the desert after the sin. Now, the Malbim explains that the Mishkan is considered like an Olam Katan, yeah, like a small world. Why is that? The Mishkan, each part of the Mishkan has a parallel connection to a person, to the man himself. Each like, let's say the menorah is considered the brain. Each part, the mizbeach is like the mouth, and each part has a connection. It's considered like a connection to man himself. And man is considered olam katan. It's considered like a small world. There's a big world, Hashem's creation, yeah, and then there's man, which is a small world. Now, so what's the reason for that? So they say the reason for that is because the Mishkan, the whole idea of the Mishkan is to teach man how to like make himself more holy, to sanctify himself. By seeing the way the Mishkan works, yeah, we can work on ourselves also. It's like it's there to give us an example of how we should be. The Shekhinah is the idea of the neshama. Hashem's Shekhinah dwells in the Mishkan is like the neshama within the body of a person. And the rest is like the different parts of the body. It's to teach us how each part of the body should behave, how we should behave. So, what the Torah starts off. The Torah could have said, "Build the Mishkan." Yeah, go and build the Mishkan. The Torah says, "V'kchuli truma." Yeah, first thing, bring truma, bring donations to build the Mishkan. The first thing is donations. So again, we see that the idea of building a world, Mishkan is a olam katan. It's like an example of the big world. Yeah, it's a small world. The same idea, just like the big world was created with chesed. First thing is chesed. The first thing in the Mishkan is chesed. Yeah, to build a world, you have to have chesed. Yeah, a man has to perfect himself with chesed. The first thing is perfect himself with chesed. There's now relating to the idea of Purim. Yeah, trying to bring Purim into this. Purim actually has a big, the basis of Purim is basically chesed. What's a mitzvah of Purim? Yeah, mitzvah of Purim is Megillah is a mitzvah of Purim, the reading Megillah. But there's two other mitzvahs. Yeah, there's mitzvah of matanos levyonim, to give like money or money to the poor, to give them food, and matanos ish lereo, yeah, to give each friend, give him like a meal, yeah, for your friends. So it's giving to poor people and giving to your friends. So what's the deal? You see the deal of chesed. What's the deal of chesed and Purim? Yeah. So Rav Dessler also speaks about this. He says that the deal of giving is also there to help us to get a connection, to have between one and the other. It causes a connection and love. Why is that? Because when you give to somebody, you're giving a part of yourself. Yeah, you're putting yourself into somebody else. When you put yourself in somebody else, you are now putting yourself in him. You see yourself in this person. We all know that we love ourselves more than anyone else. So when you put yourself into somebody else, you're connecting with him, and you seeing yourself in him, you start to love that person. Yeah, it's really the secret of marriage. The secret of marriage is to give. The more you give to your wife, the more you give to your kids, the more you have connection to the other person. The more you start loving the person. Like, for example, a father, his love to his child is not the same love as a mother. The mother, she's for 9 months giving to the baby, yeah, and then when the baby is born, she gave already. She has straight away. She has a connection to the baby, a loving connection. The father takes time. It's not like a straight thing. Yeah, first of all, you hold the baby, you start giving, then you start getting more of a connection, more of a love to the child. So you see the idea of giving. The more you give, the more you love something. So Rav Dessler says that Purim is the same thing. The Purim, Chazal say, the sages teach us that Am Yisrael accepted the Torah on Purim, belev echad, ish echad belev echad. All Yisrael together as unity, they were able to accept the Torah besimcha, with happiness. In Matan Torah, it wasn't with simcha, it was be'ira, with fear. In Purim, it was besimcha. When they became one, like united as the Jewish people, there was simcha. Yeah, they accepted the Torah with simcha. So the idea of when we give, we have to recreate that feeling, that attachment of Am Yisrael. So we should be all together, united again. Every time it gets to Purim, the time by we giving to each other, Matanos Evyonim, Ish Lereo, yeah, we're connecting with Am Yisrael are connecting together again. We're having a loving connection between our friends, between our families and the rest of Klal Yisrael. It's another way of connecting, another way of becoming more, a loving connection between each other. So it's funny because if you think about it, it's in a non-Jewish world they have also a day where they dress up and they have a simcha, drinking and happiness. It's called Halloween, yeah. And what do people do? They go trick and treat, yeah. Trick and treat. What's trick and treat? Either you trick or treat, but it's not giving. It's taking. It's the complete opposite. Because the whole concept of Purim is the opposite. The concept of Purim is not just going drinking and having fun. The concept of Purim is becoming united, becoming a part, Jewish people as one, connection. That's the concept of Purim. Purim is becoming one and accepting the Torah as one. So we see a big, the day of Chesed has a lot of different understandings, and which that helps us for our connection, and help us in our marriage, and helps us in many ways in the whole of Klal Yisrael. So let's hope we could take this together. We just learn now about Chesed and bring it to actuality, and try and come into Purim to try and work on giving and try and give without taking. And Be'ezrat Hashem we should be zoiche, V'yat Mashiach. Be'ezrat Hashem.